Okay, so we are doing Mishlei Perek Yud Pasuk Tes. Holech Batom Yelech Betach Umaakish Drachav Yivadea. All right, who wants to take the initial translation? Don't all speak up at once.
I'll make
Go ahead.
an attempt at it.
Yeah.
Walking in, is Tom like Tom?
Yeah, Tom is like Tom.
Yeah, like unblemishedness.
Okay, good. So one, it's not walking, right? But one who walks in.
Oh, yes, it's the person who is the holy.
Yeah. One who walks in. All right. So Isaac said the most accurate translation, but this is going to obviously be one of our questions here. So, tome, okay, not tome as in the English word tome, like a book, but so let's say unblemishedness. So just background here. So I think the most familiar usage of the word tome, I guess there's two familiar usages. One is Tom, okay, which the in the Haggadah is the Ben Tom is the simple son, right? Okay, so you could also say simplicity. But then you also have someone like Yaakov Ish Tom, and Yaakov is not simple in the same sense as the Ben Tom and the Haggadah is simple, or Noach is Tzadik, Tamim Haya B'Dorasav, or Eov is Tamim, so unblemished is from the Torah's use of the word in regards to korbanos, to sacrifices, that you have to bring an animal that is tamima, which means that it has no blemishes. Okay, so unblemished, one who walks in unblemishedness. Wait, I can't believe it. Does it? Okay, I was gonna say I can't believe that registered as a word in the dictionary, but it was just delayed squiggly here. Okay, so there are going to be more translations of this as we go, but unblemishedness. I think unblemishedness, whatever, is going to be the best translation for now. Okay, good. So Yelech Betach.
Walks. I actually don't know how to translate Betach.
Yeah, anyone want to take a stab at Betach? Will walk. And this is not the Israeli slang Betach. Yeah, I mean, I remember I can't see your hands, so just speak up.
I was going to say like Betach, like for sure, like he'll walk like confidently, like safely.
Okay, confidently is good. Confidently is a good one. Safely is another good one. Securely is another good one. Okay.
Isn't that like what the Israeli slang means, Betach, though?
Yeah, but
for sure.
Slang, it's an interjection, right? But it comes from the same root, but it just doesn't mean he will walk for sure. But yeah, related. Okay. Go ahead, Isaac.
And one who twists his path, is that what it is?
Yeah. Did we have that in a pasuk recently in our prakim?
Oh, it was maybe Ikesh Svasayim.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, one who twists his paths.
Will become. Is that known? Like will become known?
Will become known. Okay. Okay. Good.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. But it's a little bit more complicated than that. Okay. So if you look at all right, so now we're going to our phase 2, which is the minimalist mafarshim / translations here. So let's just look at the subtleties. So Metzudas David says Yivadea is Lashon Shavira. Okay. So he says it means will be broken. And he quotes a pasuk from Shoftim, Vayikach es ziknei ha'ir ve'es kotei ha'midbar ve'es ha'barkanim vayoda bahem anshe Sukkos. So Yoda there, the Mefarshim say, means will be broken or shattered. Okay. Let's see. So, or will be broken, shattered. Art Scroll there said thrashed. I don't know. Okay, so that's Metzudas David. Sadigon, the only thing he adds is for Yivadea will be made known. He says will be made known, Yivadea Bekach will be made known through this. I don't think that's noteworthy enough to like incorporate into our translation. And then Targum Ksuvim says Dimahalach B'tmi Musa, one who walks with blemishness, Nazel Besaada will walk with support or assistance, okay, which is slightly different than Betach. V'dima akman or chase nisyada, and one who twists his ways will be known. Okay, fine. So that's that. Okay, so that's the Targum. Art Scroll says he who walks in innocence will walk securely. Okay, innocence. Let's do that one. Walks in innocence will walk securely, but one who perverts his ways will be broken. Living Knox says he who walks in innocence walks safely, but he who contorts his paths will be destroyed. Okay, fine. Let's just say destroyed here. Destroyed. And Alter says one who walks secure, who walks in innocence walks secure, but who walks crooked ways is exposed. Okay, so that's basically known. All right, so there we have our translation here. Okay, so that's that. All right, so what are our questions?
Wait, can I add one thing to the translation?
Sure.
Isn't tamim mean perfect or perfection, like tamima?
Yeah, you're right. We could also say perfection. Yeah. In perfection. Yeah. The only reason I actually didn't have that is in my mind it is perfection in the sense of being unblemished. And for example, I don't know if we're going to get to this tonight, but Rabbeinu Yonah, whenever the word tome comes up, says that tome just means removal of bad qualities, whereas yashar means that you have positive qualities, and that's why in my mind it was perfection. But you're right. Perfection is a good translation also.
Also purity. I guess that's innocence
purity,
also, but
I don't like purity for two reasons. One is because if I showed you the word purity and asked you to translate pure into Hebrew, you would either say tahor or you would say zach or zacha, and then if you were to say purity in this way, I think the type of purity you would mean was like without having any blemishes, so I like to keep purity out. So if you want to think purity, that's fine, but not purity in terms of like refined. It's more purity in terms of just not having any bad qualities, which could be refined, but but let's say again, like the unblemished animal is like the paradigm, I think, for this. Just for kicks, actually, hold on. Am I sharing everything, or am I just sharing? I'm just sharing Word. Do I want to do something for kicks? Yeah, give me a second. I'm not going to share the screen quite yet. I just want to look it up on the Al HaTorah dictionary and just see what it says there, because that's been pretty good. Hold on. Mishlei Yud. Clicking tome. Oh, interesting. Okay, fine. So, okay, hold on just a second here. Now I'll share screen. Sharing screen on Al HaTorah. Completeness or integrity. That's the primary definition. And then under the sub-definitions, completeness, fullness, innocence, simplicity, integrity of mind, urim and tumim. I did not think of a tumim in association with this. Yeah. Okay, so let's add those to our list here. Stop share and resume share on the document. Okay. Perfection, integrity, completeness. Yeah. Okay. So obviously our first question is going to be, what does tome mean in this context? Okay. All right. What are our other questions and problems?
How is tome and me'akesh a contrast of each other?
Okay. So how are the two halves of the pasuk opposites?
Also, what does Yivadea mean?
Okay. What does Yivadea mean? Okay. What else?
Why does he have to walk? Why can't he just sit in righteousness?
Okay, good, right? So what does holech batom mean? Okay.
Also ikesh derachav.
Yeah, what is the halicha? Good. Okay. And then what is well, okay, so let's just say, what does ikesh ma'akesh drachav mean? And then I'm going to add to that. Hold on. What does ikesh ma'akesh drachav mean? And then Isaac, are you asking that in relation to the halicha?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. And then I guess what is the relationship between the holech and drachav? In other words, is this one metaphor? Which might already be an answer to Ariel's question about how are the two halves opposites? Yeah. Okay. Good.
What does
Which is the good.
path mean in this context? Because like,
Yeah.
how do you twist your path? You're not
Yeah, okay.
literally twisting your path.
Okay. Good. So in what way? I'm actually going to put this in the mushal. In this metaphor, what does twisting your path mean, right? So like, is it twisting the path that you're walking on? Is it twisting? I mean, see, here's the thing also, right? Because derech can mean the thing you're walking on, but derech can also mean your manner of walking. So I think depending on how we learn what the drachav is, what his ways are, then that's going to affect like the twisting of your path. So that question is going to be dependent on the first question. Okay, good.
Which one's bad?
Which one's bad? Okay, so what makes you ask that question?
Because I don't know, simplicity, innocence, like unblemishedness. In a way, it kind of sounds like a person who doesn't like try to get out there and like face adversity. They kind of just sound like lame.
Okay, so I'm gonna actually I'm gonna challenge your question, and I'll tell you why. Okay, not that it's a bad question, but that you would need to my mind. Okay, let me put it this way: walking securely seems like undoubtedly a good thing. Okay, and being broken seems like undoubtedly a bad thing. So I don't think it's a question in terms of like, if you take it that way, like I think the first half is clearly good and the second half is clearly bad. And yeah, if you take it in isolation, then simplicity could be bad. Like it could imply a certain like being naive or whatever. But in other words, I don't think there's enough evidence in the pasuk for me to actually like be perplexed by which half is good and which half is bad. So I hear where your question's coming from, but I think it's I don't think we need to ask that. Okay, anything else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is like an actual question, but why does the first half of the pasuk say holech and the second half say drachav? Like, if he's walking in Tom, then shouldn't his halicha be? Meaning they're two different things.
Yeah.
Halicha
Yeah. Okay.
and
Good. So
drachav.
I'm gonna just like lump that under the question number 6. What is the relationship between holech and drachav, and is it one metaphor?
Right. I guess it's kind of asking the same question.
Yeah. What is the relationship between? Oh, I said that already.
Like, like, are they two different things? Like, are they implying the same thing? And if they are implying the same thing, why didn't Shlomo HaMelech just say the same thing?
Okay. Good. Yeah. So are these just two different expressions of the same thing in different words? Yeah, the same thing, or are they different? And we do know, we've mentioned this before in Mishlei, that unless your name is I forgot his name. I was going to say the Malbim's full name, something Leibish. Unless your name is Malbim or Rav Hirsch, then you're going to be open to the idea that Mishlei can use synonyms for poetic expression. But they're going to insist that it's two different things. So like we can be open to the idea that it's just saying the same thing in different words. Okay.
Right, but if it's saying the same thing in different words, then why didn't he just say the same thing?
Because that's not a good writer.
Fair point.
That's what the Re Ibn Kaspi says explicitly. That he says that it's the way of poetry that you don't use the same word in multiple times, because that's bad writing. It's also what your English teacher taught you when you were in the AP English. Don't use the same word in the same sentence.
A long time ago, Rabbi anyways.
Yeah, but you haven't forgotten it.
That's Chalila.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? I have one more question, but keeping it open for others.
This is kind of like a little technicality.
Yeah.
But why does it say holech and gilech? Like it uses the same.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, that is a good minor question. Which is why actually let's I'm gonna actually group that under question 2 under the holech question. Why does it switch tenses from present to future? And I'd say that is a good question because sometimes, in fact, I would say most times, although I haven't taken a survey, Mishlei does just express consequences in the present tense. One who does this happens to him. Not like it will happen to him. So that's a good observation.
Can I ask how the twisting of paths, like how the consequences of that are a consequence of that?
Yes. Okay, good. So you mean how does Yivadea...
That was a confusing question.
No, I know you meant though, right? It's how does Yivadea result from Akesh Drakov?
Right. That's my question.
So
Thank
we
you.
didn't ask that, right? We didn't ask that for either half, right? So let's do that. How does Holech... I'm going to actually... it's a pet peeve of mine to not have the questions in the order of the pasuk. So I'm going to put this in the order of the pasuk. How does Holech Batom result in Yelech Betach? And then how does Me'akesh Durachav result in Yivadea? Okay, good. I think there is another question you can ask on Yivadea.
How will it become known?
Yeah. Okay. So if let's say, hold on just 1 second here. All right. Okay. So if Yivadea, hold on just 1 second here. Okay. So if Yivadea means will become known, how? Okay. And not only how, but what else can you ask if Yivadea means will become known?
What is becoming known?
Yeah. What? Well, is that different than how? What do you mean by that?
I mean, what knowledge? Like, what is the knowledge that people are knowing?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. So how? I'm gonna actually put all this into one category. What exactly is becoming known? Okay. What else?
Why is that bad exactly?
Yeah. Okay. Good. So what? Why is that bad? And also, to whom? Right. Becoming known to whom? And that's what makes Yivadea. See, here's the thing, and I don't really know enough about the word to know that this is a good question. This is kind of a minor question. I would say Yivadea. If you ask me how to translate the puzzle, I would say Yivadea means to make known. I don't know what's driving the Metzudas David and other Mefarshim to translate as will be broken. And I can tell you, other than this pasuk, I have not seen any other pasuk that I can think of where Yivadea means, where like Yada means to break. Like, fine, that you quote the one pasuk in Shoftim, but like it's a weird way of interpreting. So like, what's pushing them to this weird reading of it? I don't know if it's a linguistic thing or like something in the pasuk, but I just wanted to express that. Okay, so I think we got our questions set, and I mean we could always add more if we need to. So are we ready to move on to our thinking phase now? Our idea phase?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, good. Ariel says so, then we can go. All right. So just getting it all on one screen here. Okay. So I think, all right, where do we have to start, do you think? I think it's pretty, if not clear, then like, I think there's like not that many candidates about where we have to start.
The consequences of Ikesh Drachov and what does that mean?
Okay, why do you say that?
Because I feel like that's the the simplest to see what's going on.
Okay.
And also I feel like it'll help us get a better understanding of Tom and Betach.
Okay.
As an
I
opposite.
hear. I have a different intuition. Anyone else have a different intuition about where to start?
Yeah, I was gonna just pick one translation for them and just go with it.
Yeah. So here's what I think. That's one way that you can do it. But to pick a translation, I think you kind of have to start with figuring out what Tom and Ma'akesh Drachav mean by playing them off of each other.
Yeah.
And this is really the question of how are the two halves opposites? Because there are so many meanings to Tom, then and like Isaac, you're drawn to Ma'akesh Drachav because it seems the clearest, right? In some ways. Is that what you said earlier? Or am I
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So what do you call it? So I think playing them off of each other and then kind of keeping in the back of your mind the result of Betach and the result of Yivadea, then you get real stew going, like you just play them off each other. Yeah.
Can I ask a question just for more general, maybe linguistic context?
Sure.
Does he often use "and" as the transition between the two halves of the pasuk, or is it more or but?
Yeah. Okay. Good. So you're right. I should have translated this as but. And we said that in Mishlei, the and it's always a vav, but when you have two things that appear to be opposites, then in English it works better to say it's but. Yeah. So I think but is a better translation. Yeah. Okay.
So just start with something. I was going to translate Tom as integrity and Me'akesh Drachav as twists his path.
Yeah.
And the truth is, like, to me, it doesn't really bother me, whether it becomes known or not known, or if it's broken or shattered or destroyed. Because if you're going to take the approach of, the first half of the pasuk means you're going to be walking with a certain sense of integrity, meaning it's just, you're just like a straight individual, like you have one, path in life, and you're pretty what's the word?
Integritous. No, that's not a word.
Yeah, well, I don't know. What would you have said? I don't know. But he just has integrity. He's a guy with integrity.
Yeah. That's fine.
But an individual, who's just sly, who's, just like, just wants to connive his way through life.
Yeah.
It will be known, by other people, and that will shatter him.
Okay, good. So this is a very straight reading of the pasuk. So let me just repeat all that, and then we'll figure out what needs to be answered here. Okay.
Yeah.
So Tom is integrity, and can we just define integrity here, just to get a good definition?
Honest, truth.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah. Okay. Honesty and truth is good, and I think the best definition of integrity that I've seen. I'm trying to remember where it was. I want to say that it is Rabbeinu Bachya ibn Pakuda in the Chovos HaLevavos, but I'll have to check that. Is that what you say, what you do, and what you think are all in line with each other? That there's no. The term Chazal have for the opposite of that they have several terms, but sorry, let me go back a second. One of the terms Chazal have that is toho kavaro, is your inside is like your outside, and then the opposite that they have of that is echad b'pev echad b'lev. You say one thing and you really think or feel another, or your actions don't really correspond to your words. So that's a good definition of integrity. And then what Ariel's saying is Ma'akesh Drachav is using some sort of like slyness or trickery or deception. And I think you actually just gave a good interpretation of why it uses the ambiguous term here, which is Yivadea means he will be known, and because he's known, he will be destroyed, right? So what is the destruction exactly that's going to happen? Or not exactly, but like, can we flesh that out a little bit?
It's reputation.
Okay, yeah, it's going to ruin his reputation, right? No one's going to trust him anymore. And what's the security then?
The security, that's just it's like this, you have a certain sense of reputation that'll be your foundation of, like, I don't know, just let's use an example of business, you know, like you're a very honest guy, and people will know that, and anyone to, you know, say otherwise, it's going to be a little hard to believe, you know, that in itself as you know, substance.
Okay, so is that, I hear what you're saying, does that fit into security? Because when I think of security, and you can argue with this, but when I think of security, I think of like, it's emphasizing like protection from, or like invulnerability to some negative or some harm, you know?
Yeah, I'm saying that the harm is someone trying to undermine your reputation.
Okay, so that's okay, good. So that's a good idea then. So in other words, okay, so let's just put this together then. So the person who has a track record of integrity will be protected from charges of ma'akesh dracha, right? Will be protected from charges of like lying or deception. And you see that this does work, by the way. I mean, I don't know if you've seen examples of this in like in your in your real life, but like there are certain people who just have like a reputation of honesty and integrity, and when some suspicion comes up that like a possibility that they did something, people are very quick to say like, they've never done anything like this. I've never seen anybody do anything like this. And that itself protects them from the charge, you know? So it does work, you know?
Right.
And then the ma'akesh drachav is someone who is using this sort of trickery or slyness. So then are you saying why it will become known? Like how will it become known?
Well, I'm saying, you know how like the classic, drushy thing, like MS, you know, they have strong legs. This is a good foundation, you know.
I've never heard this.
You never heard this before. This
No.
is incredible. You know, like sheker, you know, like the letters.
Are you talking about the letters? That's
the
funny.
letters are not stable because it's at a point. But like
Yes,
MS,
I've heard this. I've heard
you never heard this before?
No.
Yeah, I've heard
It's
this.
beautiful. It's beautiful. No, it's not
That's
beautiful.
it.
Oh, we can end shiur here. That's all we need.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. If I wanted to know how to live, I should have just looked at the words. Yeah, but no. So why is that? Why is that?
No, I mean, sorry, what was your question? I'm sorry.
My question is the question that Aviva Rubenstein asked, which was question, where'd I write it? Oh, 4. How does ma'akesh drachav result in yivadea? How is this form of twisting and deception going to lead to the becoming known and to the breaking? I understand how the breaking is going to come from the becoming known. How is the becoming known going to come about?
Well, it's going to become known because this is who you are. You know, you're living a certain lifestyle that.
Okay, good. That's a good parallel then, right? See, because I'll tell you, let me play this through a dialogue that hasn't happened. Okay. And the reason why it hasn't happened is because let me just double check. Yeah, is because Rivki's not here. Okay. If Rivki were here, so Rivki would say, I feel like what Mishlei is saying here is that if you engage in trickery, then you're going to get caught. Okay. And like, to quote the thing that I think we quoted this in a previous podcast, but like, you can fool some people some of the time, but you can't fool all people all of the time. And you're going to get caught, and when you get caught, you're going to get broken. But that's a cliche idea, right? But now what you're saying is the non-cliche idea, okay, which is a perfect parallel to the first half, which is it's talking about establishing the reputation and the track record. Is that if you establish the reputation of integrity, that will deflect charges of or suspicions of dishonesty. And if you have a track record of being the sly manipulative person, so then that itself is going to bring about exposure and breaking, you know. And so it is interesting. So okay, good. I like this idea. So now, excuse me, the question is then, you know, clearly the practical, we didn't even need to ask the question, what's the practical idea here? But like, what's the chiddush? Like, what's the new insight? Like, or what's the havamina? Why would a person like be oblivious to this idea? You know, like, why is this like a necessary thing to point out? Like, what is this? What is the nuance here? And then I think if we get that, then we can bring it home.
I think I think you have to. There's a caveat over here.
Mm-hmm.
See,
Oh, Leslie, you muted yourself again. And you're still muted.
I'm sorry. I
Okay.
missed it. This pasuk is speaking long term. Why did I say that?
Yeah.
Because let's say Bernie Madoff, right? Bernie Madoff was an upstanding, wonderful person for 20 years. He took people's money. He invested it. He gave to charities, and he had a very good reputation. But in the end, it caught up with him. That's what it means that he'll be found out. In other words, a con man, like you're running a what's the pyramid? You're running a pyramid scheme. A pyramid scheme will work, but it'll only work for a certain amount of time, because that sheker is going to be found out. But you can run it for X amount of years, and it'll be fine. But further than that, it doesn't work. So I think that's what the pasuk is saying. That's betach. Betach means it's long lasting, and it has longevity, and you don't have to worry about it. But Yevada, you found out, it means that, I don't know if it lasts for 5 years or 2 years or 1 year or 20 years, but it will come out in the end, because you can't possibly maintain that. That falsehood.
Okay, so I think that is a different idea than what Ariel's saying. And again, just to go back to this, when I use the Rivki's phrase of the cliche idea, I didn't mean to say that that is a bad idea, but I think let's coin a term right here, okay? Which is, I think there are, and I think Isaac planted this term in my head from the last year. There are different tiers of Mishlei ideas, okay? So there's like tier 1, which is really the basic premise about certain behaviors. For example, basic premise that like if you act on immediate impulse, then you're going to get bad consequences, or like if you cheat, then you're going to get caught, So in Mishlei's audiences, the Nar and the Pesi, that's the first group in Mishlei, needs to hear this idea, because it's basic and it's going to protect them from lots of stuff, and it's also the foundation of other ideas. So that's the tier 1, and then this level this idea that Ariel's saying here is a different level. Like, yeah, we're assuming that it's a long-term thing and that you're going to get caught. But what Ariel's saying, the pasuk is saying, is once you get that found out, that reputation is going to stick with you and cause more exposures in the future, or even like unravel past events that happen. And you see this happen all the time. Also, is that they catch a person doing one act of crookery or shady behavior, and then that causes them to investigate the person, and they find out a bunch of other stuff also, because they say, well, what kind of person would do this kind of thing? It's not just like a fluke, it's not just like one day he decides to get up and make a pyramid scheme, like it is symptomatic of a deeper flaw in how he relates to other people, or like how he does his business. So I think that's like that's a tier 2 level idea that Ariel's saying.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is a good answer to your question of like what the chiddush is.
Yeah, and maybe that is the chiddush. I mean, maybe that itself is the chiddush.
Oh,
but go ahead.
Well, I'm just gonna start talking, and you just tell me if I'm, All right.
Go ahead.
So, it's. And I'm kind of getting this from, security,
Yeah.
It could be that if you are, if you do have integrity, and it is your lifestyle, right?
Mm-hmm.
It could be there's this one nut, and there are, some nuts out there who just want to go against you. And it could be that individual who is living a life of integrity may feel that, okay, he's just a sheker. That guy he's just lying, and he could actually undermine my reputation. And but maybe maybe it's coming to show you that no, not really, because you'll still be protected because of your prior reputation.
Okay, so that is another good idea. Okay, which is that I think the security functions on multiple levels, just like the Yivadea is referring to two things. It's referring to the fact that he will become known and he'll become broken. and I don't think it's prom that's referring to two things. Again, that's economy of language here. But the security, I think, is also in two things. He will be secure from the breaking and the being exposed and being breaking, but he's also gonna have an emotional security that he just doesn't have to worry about people coming after him with accusations like this, because if you're not hiding it, if you don't have anything to hide, then it doesn't matter if you're exposed. Like if someone asks to like see his books, or if like he gets audited by the IRS, he just doesn't have to worry about that, because there's just nothing to hide, so he has an emotional security as well.
Exactly. And so, okay, fine. So then what's the contrast to the second half of the pasuk? So this is where it starts getting a little schwach, honestly, what I'm about to say.
But just like the word sheker, doesn't have feet to stand on, yeah.
So maybe you could say that the guy who is twisting his path, he feels that by him actually twisting his path, by him lying and being sly, it's kind of like a false sense of security, because by him doing that, it may actually he may feel that, okay, I'm covering my grounds. Okay. But in reality, it's not.
Okay, I don't think that that's a stretch. Okay, I think that, and I'll tell you why, because this is a pattern in Mishlei that any pasuk with two halves, I shouldn't say any pasuk, many pesukim with two halves, it's that you have two people striving for the same thing, but one is doing it with chachma, with wisdom, and one's doing it foolishly or through injustice. And the thing that the fool or the wicked person is trying to get, he gets the exact opposite, and the wise person gets the real thing. So here you have the perfect parallel again, also, right? Is that the fool or the wicked person in this pasuk is striving for success in whatever realm he's going for here, and doing it through the sly means, and takes security in the fact that, I'm pulling the wool over everyone's eyes, I'm tricking them, and that gives him a sense of security. And look, I'm sure that, I'm not sure, I didn't interview him, but I'm sure Bernie Madoff, after the first couple years of his conning, sure he felt a certain security, and I'm sure the fact that he built up a reputation of being very charitable reinforced that security in a way that like made him think even more that he's not going to get caught. And then it ends up that he does get caught, and the security breaks down. So the chacham in the first half of the pasuk is protected from the harm, and he has an actual state of security based in reality. And the con man is not protected from the harm, and the security will come crashing down. The false security he has is gonna collapse. Nice.
Sorry.
Continue.
That was like four people at the same time. Let's start with Stephanie, because her thing is lit up on my screen right now. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Oh, okay. I guess I was lucky. So I have, building on the premises you guys have said, I want to take it to a different place than lies and deceit outside of like your mind. Like I think it might be about morality, and going back to that definition of integrity, which is like your actions and thoughts and something else going in line with the same thing. It's that when you're questioning your morality and you're like, oh, if I can take this little shortcut here or do this little thing here, it kind of has this domino effect, and then the illusion of morality is shattered. You don't, and it will become known, because it'll become known to you. You'll figure it out, and then you're on this ongoing journey of finding integrity where you can just be confident in your decisions without worrying that you're being overconfident or you're twisting your values into something that doesn't all match up into one thing.
Okay. So let me take.
Yeah, I know it's a little confusing.
No, I hear the direction you're going. But let's actually put that on hold for just 1 second, because I want to make sure before we go to a different interpretation of the pasuk. Does anyone else have any other points or questions on this approach? Because I think
Okay.
Is that Shmuel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to go and add that with all these other double meanings, we forgot with batom, it could also be just referring to simplicity as well as integrity, because if you're living this life simply, then you won't actually end up twisting your path in the first place.
Yeah, that is also true. Right. Yeah, is if you are not meaning, yeah, it doesn't have to be this like this, you know, highly cultivated sense of like you've worked on yourself and now like you have this quality of tone. Like this could be like, yeah, like my grandfather was always like this honest guy. You know, like it's going to be certain, like he's just not trying to manipulate people through falsehood. Yeah, you're right. That it does bear that connotation. All right, who else?
I also had a couple questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
So first of all, I guess, would you say that the thing that distinguishes this from like similar sounding pesukim is that there's like a lingering effect of your reputation?
Yes, I think that's the key here. That's the chiddush, and that lingering effect of your reputation protects you or is your downfall.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to illustrate,
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I just have a good real world example that came up. Yeah.
Okay. I also had a question on the words, I guess.
Yeah.
When we first started saying this idea, I was a little bit like hesitant because it's sort of, I would have thought that you would use words for like honesty and lying or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, and these words seem like they have a little bit of a different.
Yeah. Oh, so I think we can answer that question now. What's the deal with the walking and the path? And I think this actually fits into the idea, which is that we're talking here about an established routine or an established like mode that you're in, a modus operandi, to use the fancy word, right? And so that's why it uses the metaphor of walking and the derech, because we're not talking here about like a single instance of theft, and we're not even talking about like randomly one day I decided to choose to steal something and another day I lied to another person. Like we're talking about a person who it becomes identified that this is how this person operates, you know? And so I think the words fit in with that. Now I can't explain why it's a lot easier to answer why he does use certain terms. I can't use explain why he didn't use other terms, but I think this is good for why he does use these terms. Yeah.
I guess it seems to me like these are a little bit more like actions and not just speech, in addition to what you were saying. And
maybe that reflects the fact that it does that this is pointing to how he operates, not just actions that he does. You know, his ways are twisted, and his way is having integrity. You know, and simple in that way. Zach, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I had a suggestion, but it was kind of like another take on translation. Is now the right time, or should I wait for you?
You think it is another take that is still within the same idea, or you think it's going to lead to a completely new idea?
I think it might be different.
Okay, so let's hold off for 1 second. Let me give one.
Something?
Yeah, go ahead, Leah.
Could it be that holech implies like active versus derachav implies like passive?
I don't think so, simply because it sounds like the second guy is also very active. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I have an example, by the way, that came up. I saw this week. Okay, so I belong to a Facebook group where there are people buying and selling misprinted Magic the Gathering cards. Okay, and the way that the system, it's a trading card game, so the way that it works is a person will post a picture of what they want to sell, and they'll make an offer, and then there will be people who will vouch for that person in like the comments and say like, oh, I've done business with this person before, you know? And it always bugged me because it's always like, everyone's always like, everyone's always vouching for these people, you know? And I'm like, what if you just get your friend to like vouch for you and like, you know, and then the whole thing's a scam, you know? So then this week, for the first time ever, someone posted a thing and it said, I'm looking to sell such and such. And he said some sort of thing about how like his, I don't know if it was like a COVID related, like lost my job for COVID. And like I need to sell some of my collection, you know? And then, so he's selling for this stuff. And by the way, we're talking like lots of money. Like, I think this was like for like 120,000 or something like that, you know? And so immediately, like within 5 minutes of posting, dozens of comments by different people. Known scammer. This guy is a known scammer. This guy has scammed in other groups. I've seen this guy scamming in other groups. And then someone said he always tells the same sob story and just changes the details. And I was like, wow. And this is one of the things where I was like, okay, this is clearly Mishlei in action. I just don't know which pasuk it is, you know. But it made me realize, like, yeah, and it really fits in now to this pasuk because, like, this guy probably did get away with it the first time or two, you know, but he got this reputation and like it did follow him and now he just is not going to be able to do any business anywhere where like there are people who will call him out on it, you know. So I just thought it was like a good example of this that I saw this week. Okay, so Stephanie, Leah.
Yeah, so like, can I add something to the first idea? Yeah. Okay, so going off of that story, kind of like integrity, also it comes from like a sense of knowing your path and like having a set way of thinking. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, like having a little bit, but yeah.
Having like a set plan, but someone who like twists their path, like they don't necessarily like have that plan, and they like, you know, they'll try like doing shady business, switching, you know, the sob story around because they don't have a way that is yashar and that is in line with like reality.
So I think there are two categories of integrity or in simplicity, and then there's two categories of the shady people. Okay, there are people who are by nature not manipulative and honest. Okay, and then there are people who actually strive to cultivate the honesty and go out of their way to make sure that they know that they're that they're honest, and that people know that they're honest, and that there's and that they prize that as a quality, you know, like they will, like, for example, I mean, there's a halacha about this, you know, I don't know the details on the halachas, but like halachas about how if you are someone who's collecting tzedakah for like an organization, then like counting all of your money in public, you know, that's going above and beyond what the normal you know, honest, like simple person would do, you know. And so I think there are people who like do the integrity as a plan and people who just naturally have that quality. And similarly, I don't think it was with our group on Monday night. I think it was our daily shiur. No, it was this group. We did the Rosh Ose Kaf Ramia, that the deceitful scales will make a person poor. And we said that was specifically someone who had like a lazy form of dishonesty and theft. And so there are people like that who are looking for the quick and easy, no plan type of con. And then there are the Bernie Madoffs who really work hard on like making a very sophisticated plan to not get caught, you know? So I do think that there are both of these types of people in both camps.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, so Stephanie, let's see if we can get Stephanie's idea worked out here in
it has some like, I don't know, empty spots, but
yeah, that's okay. That's how ideas start off. Yeah. So let me start off by trying to summarize what I heard from what you said. Okay, and then we'll try to fill out the empty spots. So you said that we're talking here about like a person's inner life and their integrity from that sense of like their integrity of character, whatever, you know, something like that. And Ma'akish Drachav, you use the expression of like taking shortcuts here and there. And what I liked about that is, let me show you, I didn't include this in the Word document, but the Malbim actually takes the word that way. So let me just see if I can find the Malbim. And I actually did not read the entire Malbim on this. So I don't know if he takes the other part like this. So he says, hold on, the wrong pasuk. Malbim on Holich Batom says, Hevi Mashal Alze. I'm sharing the Malbim, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Hevi Mashal Alze b'mash himshel derech hachachma neged derech hasichlos. Okay, so he says it's about wisdom versus foolishness. Shemi sholach b'derech hachachma b'tmimus nidmek mi sheholach b'prashas drachim v'hiru lo haderech hayashar. Okay, so he's setting up a whole scene here, a whole vignette. He says, someone who follows chachma, someone who follows wisdom with integrity, is like someone who is at a crossroads, and they show him both paths, and he takes the straight path. V'hu ma'amin v'holech hu yelech betach shemarviach b'shtayim. So he's walking the straight path. So he's going to profit in two ways. Shelo yikashel, he's not going to stumble. V'gam sheboteach v'holech b'lo mora, and he's also going to walk without fear. Uvehefech mi she'eno holech b'derech hatov sheheralo. So the opposite is going to be the guy who doesn't take the straight path that they show him. Now here's the only part I wanted to get from this. Ma'akesh drachav l'derech aklason. He takes a shortcut instead. Okay. Yodea b'yisurim. Ratzalomar. So he's gonna know. Or sorry, yivadea b'yisurim. He will be made known. I don't know how he's learning yivadea through afflictions. Ratzalomar she yivadea v'yizgale lifnei orve hadrachim listim v'chayos raos hametzuim b'derech ikesh. So I guess on the not well trodden paths, there are bandits and ambushers and wild animals because it's a path that's not traveled, like going through the sketchy part of town, So I'm not saying that the Malbim is in entirety saying what you're saying, but he is using the term of like trying to cut corners and take shortcuts. So he's learning the phrase ma'akish drachav as not like he perverts his own ways. He's saying he's like perverting his paths, like using the wrong path, And I think both of those actually work for your idea. But so let's now go.
I would say that both, like, it doesn't really. I just use that as an example, but I think either can work because what you were talking about domino effect earlier with the Bernie Madoff scheme and how like more and more things come out if you do one thing bad. Mm-hmm. So if you, let's say, take shortcuts or you sacrifice any of your moral beliefs, it will become more and more to the point that even like you will know it, and then your idea of you being a moral person will be shattered.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I actually, the time when I bring this up to my students actually is they have me in the olden days with Shalhavet.
In the olden days.
They had me give a like lesson right before the students graduated, before the 12th graders graduated, and it was basically like how to remain Torah observant in a non like once you're like out there in the world, like after seminary or whatever, like when you're like either living on your own or like on a college campus or whatever. So one of the points that I made to them is that one of the perks of halacha, and maybe perk is too weak of a term. That's too weak of a term because it's by design. One of the nice things about halacha, the benefits of halacha, is it forces a certain type of integrity that prevents examples like what you're talking about from happening. So let's say, for example, let's still stick with money. Like it's usher to cheat someone out of any amount of money. Like not a single penny. Like and it's usher to steal any amount. Taking a pen and using it without permission or whatever, you can't do that, like unless that the person's giving you permission. So what that does is it prevents that little kind of cutting corners where really the underlying philosophy is once you start disrespecting other people's property or taking advantage or crossing that line where you're using other people's stuff without their permission, and you don't want people using your stuff without your permission, so then it becomes very easy to like start doing that in more and more major ways. Like, oh, I'm going to start taking things from my company because like they make too much money anyway or whatever, like you just start like coming up with these rationalizations. And the way I put it to the college students is that that people cannot tolerate cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance being when your actions are not in line with your beliefs and morals. And what's going to happen is, and the Sefer Chinuch says this all the time, your actions are going to win out over your values. You're going to tell yourself, oh, I value this. I value keeping halacha, or I value like keeping kosher or whatever. And then you start making cutting these little corners. And once you go past that, it's going to be very hard to live with that conflict, and you're going to err on the side of rationalizing your habits rather than like stopping the cutting of corners and like going back to your values, you know? And so I think that is a good interpretation here of ma'akesh drachav. Like once you deviate from your principles, and again, I'm not saying that this pasuk is necessarily about like, you know, halachic principles. I was just using that as an example. It could be moral
just any moral.
Any principle. It could even be standards. Like let's say, for example, like you have certain standards that you hold yourself to in your profession, you know, in your craft, in your art, you know, and you start deviating from those, it becomes very easy to then rationalize other deviations. You know, this is Chazal's famous statement about like, once you do an avera, once you do a transgression, then it becomes permissible to you. And obviously it doesn't mean that it becomes permissible. It means that it feels like it's permissible because you've like broken free from that stricture, you know? And like, then it just becomes very, very easy to like have future lapses. Okay, so let's see if that fits into the pasuk then, right? So the part I wasn't so keen on, which you can defend, is your interpretation of the last word of it'll become known to you. So I'm going to try like taking it for the first part. So holech b'tom yelech betach. So if you walk with integrity, which means that you stick to your principles no matter what, so then you will be secure from this kind of pitfall where you start deviating and then you start rationalizing and then it unravels, you know? Or here, by the way, here's another good example. Hold on just a second here. I forgot if I got this from Atomic Habits or if I got this from the Tim Ferriss podcast. I don't remember.
My parents read that.
Yeah. Okay. Isaac, you're reading Atomic Habits. You have to tell me if he says this. He had this rule. So he said he is a genius rule. He said, you know, people have habits, and then the problem is if they violate it once, then like they just give it up. So his rule was never miss twice.
That's
you know.
Habits.
Yeah, it is. Okay, good. Yeah. So what it's great because it allows for being human, you know, but it also prevents this type of effect from happening, you know, and so you give into this one thing and then you're like, okay, but I'm not going to miss it twice, you know? And so you give yourself like a little leeway here, you know? Also similar, I feel like we talked about this before, but it's similar to the interpretation of the allegory that the Rambam uses in Perek Gimel of Hilchos Tshuva, where he says, God, when if your merits are greater than your iniquities, God will forgive the first and second sin. And sorry, he won't count them. But then when you do the third sin, then he'll count the first and second one. You know, and that's similar idea that once you do it, if you trip up once or twice, that's not going to become a thing. But like, but at a certain point, then it gathers momentum. But Stephanie's taking the puzzle that if you stick to your principles, then you'll be secure from that kind of tripping up. Okay, but ma'akesh drachav, once you twist your ways, once you start deviating from these principles, yivadea. Okay, so the question is, what does that mean? So I don't like the fact that you become known to yourself because.
Okay, yeah. So
yeah,
that was one of the other pitfalls, not the pitfall they're falling into, but the one I am that I just didn't. I guess. But also the thing is with your own internal things, since you said with cognitive dissonance and rationalization.
Yeah.
Maybe it won't become known to you, but it'll become known to everyone around you. And I kind of see this as a cycle that you can never be the person who walks in tome. You're just trying to get there because you can never confidently and securely be like, oh yeah, I am completely moral and match my actions, because sometimes you rationalize it. So we're just kind of at this point where we try not to twist our path, and when we see people around us saying like, hey, you've been kind of like rude lately, are you okay? Then you kind of think back on your rationalizations in the hopes that you would kind of get closer to integrity, but I don't know if that's a complete thing.
Okay, no, good. So let me just I'm just gonna. I had a simultaneous thought as you said, become known to other people. So let me just try mine, which I think includes yours, which is it will become known, which means that these little deviations will show up in your behavior. You know, whether they show up to you or whether they show up to other people, like you will not like. In other words, you won't be able to. Like there is this fantasy that if I deviate from the principles, there will not be any effects. Like it's just like secretly away in like this part of reality that just is not, it's not real. Like I didn't deviate, it's just not real, and so what this is saying is like, no, it'll show up. And I think it could show up to both. It'll show up. I think here's where I will be warming up to your idea. It could show up to you, but it could also show up to other people in terms of them noticing it, like the example you gave, or like the results will show up. Like I think this is one of the all right. So this is something. Okay, this one I definitely heard in a Tim Ferriss podcast recently. I just don't remember who it was. And also Steve Jobs had a thing like this. That what was this? Give me 1 second. I'm gonna actually try to find the transcript because I think I can find it. I think I could find it in 30 seconds, and if I can't find it in 30 seconds, then we won't do it. Because it was the last
high standard.
I know, right? It was the last episode I listened to. That's how I know it. And I just got to click on the transcript. Transcript of this episode could be found here. And no, it wasn't on the last episode. Okay, fine. So it was this guy who said, he quoted some sort of I wish I could get it. This thing about this what do you call a guy who makes statues? A sculptor. Okay, and he was making all these statues, and I think he would carve something on the bottom of the statues that was like very artistic. Okay, and someone asked him about it and said like why are you carving on the bottom? No one can see it. And he said the gods can see it, and Steve Jobs had a similar thing. And I've been meaning to reread the Steve Jobs biography because I just rewatched the Steve Jobs movie, and the biography was based on that, which was very good. So Steve Jobs studied calligraphy. Okay, I'm gonna botch this. Steve Jobs did something in one of his computers that was like very, very artistic that no one can see. And it was because of the same principle that he knew that he had to have this high standard even on the things that no one notices, because he knew that if he started cutting corners on those little things, it would show up elsewhere. He would start cutting corners in everything. So he was insistent on striving for perfection in everything, even the things that people will not see, because he knows that ultimately it will be seen, and I feel like the the Eastern traditions have this in terms of like, the Japanese tea ceremonies and stuff like that, of like striving for perfection in like these mundane actions. Chazal have this in terms of tznius, of like conducting yourself at night in the same way as you conduct yourself in the day, even when no one sees you, like, then you conduct yourself with the same tznius and the same modesty as in the day, because it comes out like the way that you relate to these qualities will manifest itself, so I think that's a good shot. Okay, good. Nice job, Stephanie.
Yeah, it's teamwork.
Yeah. Okay, good. So let's hear what Zach has to say, and then we'll let's aim to end in 5 minutes. But again, I'll stay on afterwards. But I just don't want to exceed the official time span, to keep people hostage. Yeah, go ahead, Zach.
Thanks. So I guess a couple of things stood out to me or bothered me. I liked a lot of the explanations so far, but I guess the thing that kind of drove me to see something else was that I want to see something that is for everyone. And I'm a little bothered by kind of just saying, don't steal, don't cheat, right, because those are kind of common values in the Jewish world. And I mean, this is kind of for everyone and for great rabbis or whatever all across the board. And so to just leave it at like, don't cheat, don't do bad things, doesn't sit like full with me. I mean, I think they're all good explanations, but I wanted to see something that applied to someone who's never going to cheat ever, kind of. So I guess I was looking at this as a description of a person's relationship with the rest of humanity.
Okay.
And a couple of things stood out to me as like helping me construct a thought, which is one is like, why use the word walk? Why is that the analogy? Walking and a path, a twisted path.
Yeah.
And I guess two thoughts there just to set it up is that like walking is something that engages with people even that you're not directly interacting with. So you might be talking to someone and that's just this person and you, but when you walk, you're sort of interacting with everybody. Anybody can see you. And also it's progress, right? It's us progressing through life and trying to get ahead. You know, the modern term for that is like the rat race. And so I chose like a couple of words in the translations that I kind of thought helped my perspective. And so like the first is Tom, like Tom, but like it just reminded me of Tom from Seder, like the four sons. You have the simple son. So I think that there's a certain approach that is super simple. It's taking everything at extreme face value. And the advantage of this, and actually I wasn't sure if I think it was the Ramchal you quoted just before, or you just showed us another source. When
the Malbim,
Malbim, sorry. That I think might have been similar. I'm not sure if I missed the intro to that, but I heard of a law or an explanation for a law that I think is very helpful for this, which is that if a person, and this might be the exact same thing Malvin was talking about, but if a person is murdered in a foreign city, then that city is responsible for his death. And the reason I heard for why they're responsible for his death is because had they welcomed him more, had they been more welcoming, he would have had confidence in the way he walked, and he wouldn't have walked being afraid. And because he walked being afraid, he became a target for bandits who could tell that he was a foreigner and he didn't have security protection in this foreign city. And so I was kind of looking at this a little bit similarly, which is like a person who walks through life, taking the things people tell them and taking people at face value and just trusting in the words they say, then they'll walk confidently. They'll say, I know what this person thinks. I know what this person's saying. He takes everything a person says at face value. And that confidence will act as a security, because when you're walking around sure that everyone's saying what they mean and meaning what they say, then people will see you as meaning what you say and saying what you mean. Whereas a person who tries to navigate not the simple way, but is always trying to say, well, they said this, so they mean that, and they have this ulterior motive, and is always trying to plot a different course and like twist through all of like the pseudo intentions that people have, this approach is tangible to other people, even if it's not necessarily immediately tangible. It's tangible to other people that a person is trying to navigate like all these ulterior motives, and then people think that they have ulterior motives, and people will be distrusting to them, which will cause them to find ruin.
Okay. So I hear what you're saying, and I agree that there is a phenomenon of like a self-fulfilling prophecy in the way that you approach people, producing the effect that you're like on guard against, and like I like that idea. I disagree with you on 3 other scores. Okay. One being the idea in the pasuk, and the other being the 2 objections you had to the way that we learned it. So I guess secondly, disagreeing with one disagreement on your interpretation of the pasuk is that both from a Mishleic standpoint, but also from a real life standpoint, I don't think that is a praiseworthy or intelligent value to just take people at face value. Like, I agree. I think it's possible to get the quality that you're striving, but without doing that across the board.
Maybe let me re-clarify. Taking people at face value if you don't have a reason not to. Meaning, I'm not saying to stick your head in the sand. I'm not saying stick your head in the sand, but I think that there's a way to live where for no reason you're going to suspect someone. Versus if there's no reason to suspect someone, then you just trust in what they have to say.
Okay, good. Yeah, okay, good. So that I can get on board with that, right? Because I was gonna say, because the just to flesh out my now diffused disagreement is one of the 4 personality types that Mishlei is aimed at is the Pesi, the gullible simpleton, and the pasuk that defines him is Pesi Yamin L'chol Davar. The Pesi believes everything, and like he is taken in by all these people. But yeah, is if you the quality you're talking about, the first statement in Chazal that comes to my mind about this is kol hachoshed b'ksherim loke begufo. Anyone who suspects people who are kasher, people who are like not bad, like who there's nothing wrong with, then they get literally means they get punished in their body, but it doesn't mean like they actually get like physically punished. I forgot what it actually means, but it's identifying that choshed b'ksherim, someone who is suspicious of people who are kosher. That's like a negative quality that I do see how that fits into the words here. Is like he, so you're almost taking holich batom as like, this is how he interacts with the world or with other people. And that will cause him to act securely. And it's kind of, you know, what it reminds me of also is like people describe certain cultures, like Harry Truman's biography. He says that when he grew up in Independence, Missouri, I forgot where he grew up. He said that no one ever had contracts. It was just that everyone just like trusted everyone else, and like you shook on it, and everyone was honest, and you could see that being a thing where if everyone is doing that, or even if you in your own local interactions are doing that, then like you'll get good results because you'll walk securely because people will interact with you on that way, because they'll see that you're extending that same like courtesy, and then the opposite with the opposite.
Yeah, an example I think I've used in a different context to explain this phenomenon is like, are you familiar with like the horseshoe graph? Like you have outliers on either end, and you have the majority of people in the middle. So I feel like there's like 10% of people who are out to be mean, and like no matter what you do or how you treat them, I'm making these numbers up, but they're gonna be rude and, you know, not nice people. You have 10 people who have like an abundance of patience and have a motivation to treat people nicely and just be good people. And then the vast majority of the rest of humanity are in the swing state, so to speak. And if you interact with them being suspicious and negative towards them, then you'll get a worse response. It's kind of like the classic example is like a cashier, you know, or someone at the airport or whatever it is. You can come off starting rude, and they're gonna be rude back because that's your expectation that you set. But if you switch your expectation to like, you know, being pleasant and expecting them to be pleasant back, then they're gonna be pleasant back.
Yeah. Although I'm just laughing because like I can tell you as someone who I'm from the West Coast, it doesn't work like that in New York. But you know, there are cultural factors as well. But I take your point though. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to make two other comments on the things that the factors that made you go to your interpretation, which again, I like your interpretation now, but that you felt like the pasuk should really be for or that it being about stealing and honest reputation is kind of like too limited in its scope, and it should really be more universal. So I just did want to remind us about how we often ask the question, who is this pasuk for? And the reason we ask that is because Mishlei does have varying levels of specificity in who its advice is for. And
just as a like a footnote, is I wasn't trying to say that I didn't think those worked as explanations.
Right, you were just trying to look for.
I wanted something that felt more applicable to the regular.
I hear. Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, I just thought that was going to be a good jumping off point for like clarifying this methodology. Okay, I hear what you're saying that, and I forgot my second point. And then just before we leave, I just want to say, because we didn't get to any actual Mefarshim this time. I think this first interpretation of the Meiri is like Ariel's thing, but Ariel just fleshed it out more. Holich batom yelech betach u'malchus rakav yivadeh biuro. Its explanation: holich batom, one who walks in tom, kolomar shenimna me'asos kol ra. He refrains from doing any evil. So that's more broad, obviously. Yelech betach v'lo yiyare mishum adam. He won't be afraid of anyone. Uma'akish drachav lasos avon umirma, who does iniquity and deceit. Yisyare me'atzmo. He'll have to be afraid about himself. So yivada tivo, his nature, his character will become known. V'tigale ra'aso v'tukach nekama mimeno kafi haroi, and his evil will be exposed. Excuse me, and and vengeance will be taken out on him accordingly. You know. So again, that it's not exactly like what Ariel's saying, but it is like Ariel in saying that his reputation is going to become known for both honesty and for deception. So that was good. Okay, good. So we got three ideas. That was a nice haul.
It's just very simple. It's just MS versus sheker.
That's
Just
it. That's it.
remember
That's all we
that.
need to know. Yeah. You know the sad thing is, and this is a testament to why ideas like that are good. I'll bet you if you ask me in 10 years, that's the only thing I'm going to remember about this year. You know, so it has a way of like sticking in your mind. And that is the point. Look, like we make fun of gematrias and things like that, but that is the point of these things, is that they are very, they're like Chazal say, right? It's like a desserts, like spices or desserts, you know, like they spice things up and like, you remember them and like they stick in your head, but you also have to think, you know, and as long as we do the thinking, then those things are okay. Yeah. All righty. All right. So officially ending for tonight and pick up next week. Leonardo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.